going on, guys? Welcome back, and today I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I know this is a really late review. I told you, like, on Wednesday I was going to do a review, and it's, like, Sunday when I'm doing this, but I wanted to do this review. I don't really have a lot to say that other people haven't already said about this film. I think it's an absolutely spectacular film. It's well written. It's fantastically animated. I have, like, basically no problems with this film. I think it's really solid, and, I think it's very this will have spoilers. It's been out for a week, so yeah. This video will contain spoilers for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but this film is spectacular. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, click off now. I'm gonna say it's amazing. I recommend it. A ton of other people have already said this, but if you're gonna see one of the big movies this Christmas, like Mary Poppins, um, like Aquaman or Bumblebee. I have not seen Aquaman or Bumblebee yet, or Mary Poppins, but this is the one you should see. It's not just a good superhero movie, Spider-Man movie, which it is both of those. It's just a good movie in general. So if like you have a kid that's a fan of Spider-Man or he's like a fan of superheroes, you need to take him to see this film. This is a spectacular film, and it's just amazing. So I guess I'll get into the characters, and I love basically all the characters in this film. They all bring their own unique sense of comedy and their own sense of character. Like Nicolas Cage as, and I guess before I get into spoilers, this is also my favorite Spider-Man film. Uh, I think it's better than Homecoming. I'm sorry I'm saying that, but I think it's better than Homecoming. Um, and I think it's better than Infinity War. Please don't kill me, but I think it's better than Infinity War. Infinity War was a fantastic film, but I think this is a more, like, I understand the Russo brothers had a really hard task with that film, but I think this film is even more well written, and I think this is a huge comeback for Sony after their flop with the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man trilogy. But yeah, this is my favorite Spider-Man movie, and it's my favorite film of the year, and I mean that honestly. I might do a top five. I don't have a top 10, but I'll probably do a top 5 films of 2018 list. Let me know if you'd like to see that. But this is my favorite film of the year, like without a doubt. I might not see Aquaman and Bumblebee before the end of the year, but this has to be my favorite film of the year. So, yeah. So we're gonna get into the spoilers, and we're gonna talk about all the characters, and each character brings their own sense of comedy and their own sense of character to the film. And even though like whenever like something emotional happened to them, I wasn't like crying. It was still enough to make me go like, "Aw," you know. I'm glad that this film with all these crazy, like, I don't know how this film with Spider Pigs and Nicolas Cage and like an old like slobbo Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man film, but it just is, and it's absolutely fantastic. The one weak part a lot of people have been saying is Kingpin. I didn't hate him. He had a little bit of character behind him, as you saw in a few scenes, but it felt like they're kind of trying to force that upon you. In one scene, they just randomly intercut it with Kingpin's backstory, and they're just like, here's his backstory. Feel bad for him, and it felt a little forced. Um, but other than that, that's basically one of my nitpicks of the film. I don't really have any other nitpicks. It's very well rounded. I thought Miles and his uncle, and the comedy is just really well timed. Like when he comes back and he's like, "My uncle's the Prowler and he got killed," and then then they're all like, and then Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir is like, "Well, that's a tragic backstory or a tragic origin story or something." It's just so funny. Um, if you didn't know, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, so this film is it's what I wanted, and I really love this film. I've said that a million times throughout this review, but I love each character brings their own sense of comedy. Spider-Pig. Oh, there's the I'm playing the soundtrack in the background. There's the song that he was listening to at the beginning of the film. I love that song. It has a great soundtrack too. It's a great score, a great soundtrack. Well, not really a score. It's just they use a lot of like songs, and the songs kind of work. They work really well in the film with Miles' kind of sense of character. Miles has a very unique sense of character, and I really felt myself attached to his character. I read one of the Miles Morales comics, and he felt like a really bland and boring character. In this film, they give him his own personality, and they make him relatable. Miles is a great character. Spider-Gwen is also a great character. I thought it was weird how they were trying to kind of force a romance between the two of them. Uh, it was kind of a little romance, not really. I don't know what it was. She was like, I'm not making friends, and at the end they were like friends. So they're friends, but they kind of were trying to have some romantic tension between the two. It felt a little bit forced. I was like, they didn't have to do that, but they kind of did. Um, I love the old Spider-Man. Like they have, I didn't know this, but it's Chris Pine voices the Miles's universe's version of Spider-Man with the blonde hair, and then the older Spider-Man comes in and he's like, well, um, he was like me, but he was blonde and he was perfect and he had white teeth, and it's just kind of hilarious. Um, but yeah, going back to, I just love how each character has their own sense of comedy. Like, Penny Parker has her robot. Spider-Man Noir is really funny with like that Rubik's Cube. Spider-Ham's pretty funny. Spider-Ham was probably my least favorite. He had one really good moment towards the end where he beats up Scorpion. And it's like, I didn't care so much about these characters to the point where I cried. But once again, there was a little moment where Penny Parker's robot gets like broken or whatever. And it's just like a little awe moment. Like in the theater, I was like, aw, so I cared. They made me care enough about these characters to the point where I said, aw. So, they do a good enough job so that you can have that kind of emotion going on in that sort of scene. Um, I like kind of the side villains they had. Then the Prowler gets revealed to be Miles' uncle, and I thought that was a really emotional scene. And I think overall, this film, I think in terms of emotion, is better than Homecoming. But in Spider-Man Homecoming, when Peter Parker is trapped under the rubble and he has to push his way out, that's probably the only emotional scene in that film. But in Spider-Man Homecoming is more of just a fun movie. This one, it has more emotion, and it also has fun and charm. But I feel like this film is actually the most intense Spider-Man movie. It's really intense, and there's some really dark moments. And I think that's something to say, because this is the most colorful, crazy, stylistic, comic booky movie I've seen. And a lot of people usually say, oh, well, animated movies are kids' movies. And this proves that wrong, because, kids can enjoy this, but it's really intense, actually. Like, it gets really dark and intense at some points. And I really appreciated that. And in terms of emotion, like when Miles' dad comes to the door of his room and you can hear him on the other side of the door, but he can't answer him because he's tied down. It's just so emotional. And then when his uncle dies, and then when they're all like, for me, it was my Uncle Benjamin, or whatever Spider-Man Noir says, it's just hilarious. So I thought that scene was emotional when Miles' uncle, and I don't know if it was kind of a purposeful misdirect on the filmmaker's part, but when Miles' uncle is holding him, or the Prowler is holding him on top of the building, and Miles reveals that it's him, and he's like, oh my god, I made a mistake. And then Kingpin's like, what are you doing? Why are you hesitating? And then he shoots him. I was really surprised, because, who shot him? Because when they have the shot of Kingpin, and he's like, why are you hesitating? It looks like there's a screen behind him with a monitor showing them on top of the roof, instead of him being in the alleyway behind them. So I don't know if that was a purposeful misdirect on the film's part, but to me, it felt like a misdirect, and I felt it was really well done. So I think in terms of emotion, this film delivers better, and I never really cried in this film, but I think in terms of Spider-Man Homecoming, that one sequence where he's trapped under the rubble, sometimes I almost cry at that scene. With this film, I never cried, but I've only seen it once, so once again, maybe it will change over time, but with Homecoming, I almost cry in that scene when he's trapped under the rubble. In this film, I never cried, so I think that this film is better in terms of emotion, but in my opinion, I actually cried a little bit at the scene when Spider-Man is trapped under the rubble in Homecoming. So, yeah, I think this film is better in terms of emotion, but Homecoming, to me, had the better emotional scene. Um, I think this is just a really good film, and I don't really know what else I have to say about it. It's amazing, and just each character brings a sense of comedy. And there's something I didn't like Scorpion. Like, he just kind of shows up, and I like Olivia Octavius's reveal when she reveals that she's Doc Ock. I love when Spider-Man is in the rafters, and he's like, "Oh, just wait." He's gonna be like, "You have 24 hours. You have 24 hours." It's just like, this is standard Spider-Man stuff. You get used to it after a while. It's hilarious. Um, it's a really funny movie, and I think the villains were pretty good. Like, the side villains, they didn't have a lot of development, but they were funny. But Scorpion was the most pointless. He shows up at Aunt May's home in the middle of the film, and then he has robot legs, which I thought was really unnecessary and stupid. I was like, why does he have to have robot legs? Oh, because they want to have something worthy to battle one-on-one with Penny Parker's robot. So it was kind of pointless overall. I didn't really like that, but I like Spider-Ham's moment at the end was, does this feel like a cartoon? And he's like beating him up. Another problem I kind of have is I think that the animation at some points, the animation is fantastic, and sometimes it feels like a live-action film, and the animation is so comic booky. Like when Miles is running down the street, sometimes there's comic book, like thought bubbles appearing behind him, or comic book like text appearing behind him. But at some points in the action scenes, I was watching it in 3D, and if you're a little bit sensitive to 3D, I'm not really sensitive to 3D, but if you're a little bit sensitive to 3D, I'd say maybe don't see this movie, because there's some sequences, like in chase sequences and stuff, where I had to take them off for a second because it was making me a little dizzy. But that's not really the problem with the film. I think it's just me being a tiny bit sensitive to 3D sometimes. But yeah, overall, I think I've said everything. Oh, and then Aunt May was hilarious when he shows up, and then I love how Miles comes back to her house to spray paint his suit. I love that when he spray paints the suit, but I love when he goes to her house, and then she's like, I've been waiting for you. It's like she's just sitting there waiting for him. It was like this. It was like old Aunt May, but she was she was like super cool and breaking down the walls and stuff. She was like, "You guys are here," and then like breaks down the boards to the basement. It's just hilarious. Um, I think this movie has really good emotional tug in the message. It never loses track of its message, which I think is another strength of the film, which is anyone can be Spider-Man, um, and anyone can be a hero. I think that's what the main message is trying to be like, um, is trying to say. So I think this is the best Spider-Man film, and it's my favorite film of the year, my favorite Spider-Man film. Homecoming is a close second, but I think this Homecoming is just an entertaining film overall, and there's that one emotional scene which I actually cry at sometimes, and I never cried at this film, so I think that sequence, in my opinion, tops the emotional scenes in this film, but I think this film has more emotion than Homecoming. So I'm going to give this film an A+. I have some nitpicks with Kingpin, but Kingpin wasn't even that bad to me, and at some points the animation kind of bothered me in 3D, but that's just kind of me personally. It's not the animation, because I think the animation is fantastic. So that's my quick review on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I saw it on Tuesday, and it's my favorite Spider-Man film, my favorite film of the year. And let me know if you'd like to see a list of my top 5 films of this year. So yeah. You guys let me know what you thought of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and if you liked it as much as I did, and as much as other people did, or if you maybe think it's a little bit overrated. I personally don't. I think it deserves all the praise it's gotten. Oh, and then there's a little credit scene with Spider-Man 2099 at the end, where he goes back in time, and it's the 60s Spider-Man cartoon. He's like, "You are pointing at me! No, you are pointing at me!" It's hilarious. But yeah, you guys let me know what you thought of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and what you thought of my review in the comments as well. And I hope you guys have a great day. Take care. Merry Christmas as well. I will probably do a haul video on Christmas. And you guys let me know what you thought of this review and what you thought of Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse in the comments as well. And I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.